We're back from our caucus. I appreciate that additional time from the union. We started discussing and getting into some other issues, seeking some ways to bridge the gap, and also discussing kind of what the ongoing negotiations would look like. So we want to be as transparent as possible with you guys there. Let me start with what we're willing to do. We're willing to compromise on the across the board increase for this year and suggest 5.5%. You meet in the middle of the last two proposals. 5.5% is, and Brian Horn, correct if I'm wrong, is essentially what the average increase worked out to for administration and executives. So feel pretty comfortable we can get the board on board with that. We also had discussions. I have been kicking around the idea of doing something more on the overload rate. So we're going to propose that now as well. And what we're thinking of there is to raise the overload rate from $39.25 per credit hour up to $45 an hour for the fall and spring term. It's my understanding that that's the current rate for summer. We're proposing that it be equal for all three terms, summer, fall, and spring. So it'd be an increase for fall and spring for overload. That's for the credit courses. For non-credit, proposals to increase it from $28 an hour to $29 an hour for non-credit courses. And we're willing to put that into place for this coming academic year. We would be agreeable to some language in the MOU that says we're going to continue to negotiate for this upcoming academic year on salaries, including continued discussions on salary schedules, compression issues. Candidly, we've been studying some of that, and while it's taking some more research and calculations, we really want to make sure we're looking at comparisons that are equivalent, the apples to apples, if you will. Even looking at K-12, there's differences in duty days, work week hours, terms, stuff like that. So just to let you know, that's some of the stuff we are looking at. And we're asking the question too of us, does it make sense for us to propose any changes along those lines? That if we decide that it makes sense from the best interests of the students in college to do it, we would do it in conjunction with these same negotiations. Now, that's not to say that there's been any conclusions on that regard. We haven't reached that, but that's what we're looking at studying, and we're obviously going to want to negotiate that as part of this and get the union's input. So we don't have any problem putting language in there to all of those kinds of issues would be subject to continuing negotiations and to kind of moving forward with those negotiations. The other thing, and what we just spent a considerable amount of time talking about, we mentioned this at the last meeting, was we do want to discuss sooner than later some flexibility for us to be able to address these critical needs or high need areas where we have open vacancies now. And we were trying to determine on our caucus there if we're in position to make a proposal today on that. Long story short is we're not quite there, but we expect to be there pretty soon. Part of what we're proposing in terms of these compromise with going up to the 5.5% and these other things is we're hoping and expecting, frankly, the union to work with us on those differential. I'm talking about like the nursing programs and whatnot, where we have a lot of vacancies. We are still waiting for some answers on some of the budget money, for example, whether it can be spent on those kind of programs for these types of salaries. We expect that kind of information to be available soon, but it's not yet. Once we have that, we expect to propose some sort of differential where for the critical need for this coming academic year, having the union buy into us being able to offer, X amount % more or whatever than the current starting salary, recognizing that all of that long-term will still be part of the negotiations for salary schedules and whatnot. But we're not there to present it. We also, however, don't want to necessarily put that off as part of the larger discussions, because we think a larger discussion is going to take a little bit of time over the summer or whatnot. So my thought is to be able to reach out to you guys once we have those answers and say, email you, can we get on a quick session in the next few weeks or whatever, or tell you what we're thinking in the email. You guys might decide you don't have any problem with it, and we might not even need to meet, just as a matter of being able to hire those folks. So that's what we spent the last, whatever it was, 45 minutes trying to figure out. But the bottom line for today is we'd go up to the 5.5% now and increase overload rates, agree to some language that we're continuing and continue on discussions now about the future salary schedules and whatnot.
I'm going to need to caucus with my team, but it should be a fairly short caucus. One of the things I will ask of you when we do go to caucus, if you want to get with your folks, we still do need to deal with the chairs and the program directors, and we could be prepared to send a counter to your last offer within the next 2 weeks or so. And so if you wanted to be able to look at some dates, the possibility that we could do that and get that out of the way, because I know that needs to be taken care of fairly soon as well. We just didn't want to burden that with today's discussion.
Yeah, and we might even be able to roll those together with that differential pay type issue too. Yeah, we'll look at dates, and I have not yet put together a revised MOU, but I've started working on that during it. So I may even be able to get that to you while you're in your caucus.
Okay.
What I just described, essentially. I want to run it by the team here, but if I do, watch your email and you can then review it during your caucus and see what the language.
So if I could give it maybe 15 minutes or so for a caucus, and we'll go back together with you.
Sorry,
let's
this,
go back to-
wait, this is Caitlin. I just wanted to clarify the $45 an hour for overload. Is that for the current fiscal year or the next fiscal year? Like, would faculty get a back payment, or is it going forward?
Just going forward.
Going forward. Okay, thank you.
Started the summer, for clarification, starting in the summer and obviously in the fall and moving forward from there.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, let's go back to caucus. Come back about 2:45.
That sounds good. Thank you.